Morning, brothers and sisters. My name is Peter. I also call myself the guardian of the truth in my YouTube channel. The reason I'm making this video is because I would like to speak to you about an important matter, a topic that many brothers don't speak about. And I would like to address this matter. And I want to show you so you can, make your own decision because you have free will. You can believe whatever you want to believe, but I believe that God doesn't repeat himself. And I'm going to show you where. If you go to chapter 1 of Genesis and you read, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And then you read the verse 2. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Right there, you can see that God created heaven and earth. And God doesn't do halfway jobs. He do the job completely. Everything was fine, ready to go. Because if you go to verse 8 and you read the verse 8, it says, and God called the firmament heaven. Right there, why is repeating it? Because he already created it in verse 1. But when you go to the second verse, you see there's something happened there. And I believe that was the rebellion that took place in heaven. And with that war broke out, that fighting, that battle, that's wrestle, that's struggling. The enemy, which is Lucifer, and the 1/3 was cast out to earth. And when you have a table that everything is put up real nice, neat, and well, the job is well done, it's in order, everything. But if you go and do this, boom, and hit the table, everything just go flying. Or maybe if you flip the table, everything goes out of, it goes messy. It becomes all messy. And that's what happened in the beginning. Because if you meditate in communion with God, you're going to see that something happened. God doesn't do halfway jobs. He don't do that. In verse 1, right there, God is telling you that he was done. But something happened. And it was the event that took place in heaven when Luzbel rebelled against God. And when he was cast out, the force of the power and the strength that God cast him out, when it hit earth, everything that was created perfect, it become disorganized. It become void, a mess. Because if you read right here in chapter in verse 2, it says, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. But if you go to verse 8, 7, excuse me, it says, and God made the firmament and divided the water from which were under the firmament from the water which were above the firmament. And it was so. And in verse 8 it says, and God called the firmament heaven. So why he's repeating? And it was because he was putting it together, organized again. But God doesn't repeat himself. Okay? Because right there in verse 1 it says that he created the earth. So in verse 10 you read, and God said, In verse 9, it said, God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth. So why he's repeating it? Because in the verse 1, you see in the beginning, God created the heaven and earth. And that event right there, it took place. And I'm going to prove it that God doesn't repeat himself. Because if you go to verse, I think is verse 26, he said, and God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. This verse here is talking about the races. God created the races first, and I'm going to prove it to you. Because God doesn't repeat himself. Because many people, they believe that they descended from Adam. And that's not so. That's not true. Because if you go to chapter 2 of, you know, Genesis, and you read on verse 7, this is the 8th day. This is the line that Jesus Christ was going to come. This is the man that tilled the ground that he didn't have, because he had the races to take care over the fish, over the birth of the air, over the land, over the cattle, everything. But he didn't have a man to till the ground, to take care of it. This is the line from where Jesus Christ was going to come, because it says the Lord God formed man. It doesn't say he created, he formed. See, of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man become a living soul. That right there is the line that Jesus was going to come from. Okay? And I'm going to show you. Because if you go to 19, let's go to the 19. Let's see. See, and out of the ground, the Lord God formed every beast. Again, he's not saying created, because he already created it. We talking about inside eating. He just formed the animals right there. So God formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them into Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. Right there, I'm showing you that there's two bloodlines, the races and the bloodline of the living. And this is why, if you go to I think is on 3, chapter 3. So, chapter 3, I think it's verse 22. I said, and I don't know, chapter 3, verse 20. It says, and Adam called his wife named Eve because she was the mother of all living. It means all living spiritually, not in the flesh. This is the line of all that we're going to be living eternally with God. This is the line that the elect ones of God, everybody that is descendant from Abraham. You see what I'm saying? Because there's two bloodlines. And I'm going to make another video to explain other deep topics that is going to connect the dots with this one. But you're going to see it. You're going to see what I'm trying to tell you. Because when you go to chapter 3, let's say, you're talking about, see, in chapter 4, 17, it says that when Cain killed Abel and God put a mark on his forehead, he went out from the presence of the Lord. So when he was walking the earth as a vagabond, as a fugitive, it says in verse 17, and Cain, see, let's go to the 16. It says, and Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelled in the land of Nod, on the east of Eden. And 17, and Cain knew his wife. Knew his wife. But hold on. From where that woman came from. It was only Cain and Abel. Because that woman came from the races. That's how he found her, from a tribe of the races. Because if you think about it, that's how it happened. God doesn't repeat himself. Why he's going to speak those words in verse 27 in chapter 1 of Genesis. Let's make man in our own image. And then go back to in chapter 2, verse 7. Oh, let's make man again. No, he's not repeating. He already created it. He's forming. See, that's a different word that you're not understanding. Creating, creation and form. He formed man from the dust because this is the line that they were going to take care of the earth, till the ground. This is the line that Jesus Christ was going to come. So right there, you can see that there's two bloodlines. Okay? There's two bloodlines. The bloodlines of the dead and the bloodlines of the living. And this is why it says that many are called and few are chosen, and few are the ones that find the path to salvation. This is why God saying that, because you see only few on the living, on the blood, the bloodline of the living, but you see so many in the bloodline of the dead. And And we don't understand that, but only God knows why. But this is evidence that we not all descendant from Adam. God created the races first. And he's not, God doesn't repeat himself. God doesn't make mistake. He don't need to say it twice. Oh, I forgot. God doesn't do that. And this is what I want to talk to you about. Because if you read the Bible carefully, you will understand what happened. God didn't, he didn't create those three. He just commanded to be, to grow up, to form them. He didn't create those animals. He commanded just to, grow up. He formed them. You see? But over there, he created them. Because if you think about it, he formed them. And put the living spirit into his nostrils and become a living soul, a living man. Okay? The animals, they only have the living spirit, which is the one that makes you move. You see that I'm alive. We have two. We have the spirit and we have a soul. The animals have the spirit, the living spirit. That's why they're alive and they run around. But when they die, that living spirit go back to God. See what I'm saying? So when they die, the flesh go back to the dust. But when we die, the living spirit that God put on our nostrils go back to God. You see, it comes back to the Creator. But the soul is the one that remain to be judged. And if you did what is right, well, angels will come and pick you up, and you're gonna right away see that you dressed up. That's why I said, you know, make sure that you are with your clothing and don't find yourself naked. Because if you die without God, the first thing you're gonna notice is that you're nude, you're naked, and you're gonna see a pair of demons that you're gonna scream, and you're not gonna be uh, um, walking and things like that. They're gonna drag you, because I know that nobody's gonna go with entities so horrible like that. And this is the video that I wanted to make. I wanted to talk to you about. God doesn't repeat himself. Like I said in the verse 1 in Genesis, God already made everything. But something happened in verse 2 that put everything in a mess. So to me, I believe, and I'm quite sure that that was the rebellion that took place in heaven. So when the fallen angels, the one that follow Lucifer, hit the ground with that force, everything that was, you know, put up really nice and neat, it came disorganized. It become a mess. So this is why God is putting it back together again. Like somebody with a broom, picking the things that fall to the floor and stuff like that. Because you have to understand, God is a father. You know, He works. He's 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 great and mighty and powerful, but He's a father. You know, all the things that we do here, He taught Adam. That's why when I was speaking in the previous video about denying Adam to do what is right, God doesn't contradict Himself. You know what I mean? You shall not eat from the tree of good and evil. It doesn't make sense. But He's telling you, He's right there. When He brought the animals to Adam, that's a form of teaching, because He brought the animals to see what He was going to call them. But He brought them to Him with the intention so He can start learning. You see what I'm saying? Well, anyway, I hope you like this video. You can subscribe. I will download other videos later on, speak about different topics like this. Thank you very much. You have a wonderful day. Bye bye.